Hi, welcome to your best year of your life pre-summit challenge. My name is Fleet Mall, one of your summit co-hosts, and I'll be your guide for this pre-summit challenge. You'll be receiving a segment or module of this challenge every Wednesday between now and when the summit begins on January 12th. So if you're watching this, that means you're registered for the summit. So thank you very much for registering for the best year of your life. And this pre-summit challenge is really designed to optimize the benefit that you'll receive by participating in that summit. The summit is a 10-day summit with 45 or more amazing expert presenters focusing on really clarifying our life vision and purpose, uh, deepening our well-being, our physical, mental, emotional, spiritual well-being and resilience, making changes to our mindset, realizing the importance of mindset when it comes to performance in every area of life, learning the science of creating new positive habits or deconstructing ones that are not serving us any longer. Days focused on relationship, the quality of our relationships, on our spiritual journey, on our relationship with the earth, and so forth. And so, in order to really, for all of us, to get the most out of this summit, it can be helpful to prepare. And so the Best Year of Your Life Summit happens every January. And the idea is to really kickstart our new year and to not give up on our dreams and aspirations and goals and really gather our energy and step into each new year in the most powerful way possible. And so these modules of the pre-summit challenge will just be about 20, 25 minutes in length. And this one will be about that length. And you'll, again, receive one every Wednesday. And so we're going to go on this pre-summit journey together. And the best year of your life was really conceived as an alternative to the proven failure of New Year's resolutions. The data on New Year's resolutions is not good at all. Somewhere around 5 or 6% of people actually follow through on their New Year's resolutions in any significant way. And we think we understand some of the reasons for that. We often make these resolutions in a somewhat casual manner, but even when we make them in a more intentional way, often we do so without really having clarified our life vision and purpose to begin with, or without making sure that our resolutions or aspirations are sufficiently aligned with our life vision and purpose and our values and what's really most important to us. We also realize that a lot of us don't have a lot of information on the science of habit change and change altogether. So we want to make changes in our life, but we don't really know what it takes to do that. And so we immediately hit walls of frustration because, we're all fairly habit-driven creatures. That's the way the brain is a learning machine, and it develops all kinds of neural pathways that support all of our functions and our habits, right? So and those can be difficult to change. They have their own momentum. And so we've all experienced that. But there is tremendous science today on how to effectively create new habits that serve us in life and maybe deconstruct some of the old ones that are not serving us so well anymore. So we also feel that it has to do with, we often make these resolutions or commitments from a place of unworthiness or feeling like we're not enough. And so, unconsciously, we're going to move away from that as quickly as we can because we instinctually know we're kind of setting ourselves up for self-shaming in one way or another. So this summit is really meant to provide an alternative that doesn't include any of those things. It's completely grounded in recognizing our own innate goodness, wholeness, intelligence, and so forth, that we're perfectly good just the way we are. We're not missing anything. We don't need fixing. And yet at the same time, like all beings, we just naturally grow and thrive. So, we feel our purpose and our destiny as human beings is to somewhat remove the block so that we can just continue to grow and thrive and change and explore and throughout our lifespan, whatever that means for each one of us. And so we're really trying to provide a deep dive into the inspiration, motivation, and science of all that, with some particular days focused on specific areas of our life, like relationship and health and well-being and financial health and well-being and relationship with the earth, simplifying our lives, and so forth. So it's going to be a fabulous summit, and we want to prepare you and ourselves to get the very best results we can from it. So here we are at the end of the year. So this is a very good time to engage in a process of reflection, to complete 1 year well, and be ready to really launch ourselves new in the next year, in this case in 2022. Now, this is one particular calendar. In Asia, there are different calendars, more lunar-based. The Jewish tradition has a different calendar. But all these calendars, they might seem arbitrary, but they're not. They're all cosmologically based. The Western calendar that most of us are familiar with, and this summit is based on, is, I believe, a solar calendar with lunar corrections. Some of the other well-known calendars are lunar calendars with solar corrections. So it's not arbitrary. It is really lined up with cosmological forces and seasons and so forth. And so it's a significant time of year. And for many of us in the West anyway, this is how we recognize the transition from 1 year to the next. And each new year gives us the opportunity to really kind of relaunch our life and to not give up on our dreams and our aspirations. And especially during this time of the global pandemic, when it's really easy for us to end up back on our heels, just kind of in survival and coping mode. That's very, very understandable. And yet, we really want to create the possibility that we all kind of get back on the balls of our feet. And despite all the incredible challenges we're facing today, to engage life in the best way possible for each and every one of us. So that's the purpose of the summit, and that's the purpose of our pre-summit challenge, to prepare us to do so. So today, and probably for the next several videos, I want to focus on really completing this year well. And then at some point, we'll make a transition and we'll talk about preparing to engage in the summit journey beginning on January 12th. So thinking about completing this year. And by the way, I really encourage everyone to get a journal, and could be any kind of notebook, but to get a dedicated journal or notebook. Maybe go out and purchase one online or go out to the store and pick up one. It could just be a spiral kind of school notebook, or it could be a nice journal of some kind. But I really encourage everyone to get a special journal if you can, to go through this pre-summit challenge with and to use during the summit. Because recording our journey and our goals and our insights, it's very powerful putting things down on paper. Just about everyone you could talk to in the life coaching field or leadership coaching field talks about the importance of getting things down on paper. It's a way of proclaiming things, the reality of things to ourselves, and proclaiming commitments to ourselves. And it's also just a way of actually sort of concretizing our insights and our reflections. And the actual physical act of writing is another form of, it reinforces the learning, because we're not only thinking it and maybe speaking it, but then we're actually moving our hand to make the letters and get it down on paper. And this is very powerful. Now, some of you may prefer to use an online journal, and that's fine if you prefer that. I think there is something about having a physical journal, but please do what works best for you. Okay, so I think the first place to begin is reflecting on, did we enter 2021, this current year, with any clear goals or aspirations? Did we have a clear vision and purpose for our life? Have we ever actually done the work of clarifying our life vision and purpose? We may have, many of us may have, or we may not. And if we have in the past, we may want to revisit it and update it a little bit. Or if we've never done that, we may want to really kind of go through a process of reflecting on, what is my life really all about? What is the purpose that I feel drives my life? Why am I here on the planet? Why was I born? We were all born for a reason. None of us are accidents. That's my belief. And we all have a very important purpose to fulfill in life. And I think it's really helpful when we get a sense of that. And that can sound like a big question, right? Like, how would I understand what my life purpose is? But if we're willing to sit with it, if we're willing to just contemplate it and sit with it, something will emerge. Something will emerge with some clarity. And it also has to do with our ethical principles about a life, the kind of life we want to lead, the kind of person we want to be, what we think is important out there in our community and the overall societal landscape and global landscape of what's important. What do we think it's really important for all of us to be focusing on? And therefore, what are some of these things that guide my life, the priorities that guide my life? It can be really helpful if we even come up with one sort of real strong guiding principle, like that's my North Star. And I know as long as I stay focused on this purpose, which could include a lot of other purposes, but this one thing is so principal. As long as I stay on track with that, I know I'm on track with being who I am. I feel in touch with. I haven't lost my. Sometimes we hear people talk about, I feel like I've kind of lost myself or lost touch with myself or lost my way, right? So it can be very helpful to kind of have that North Star. Or maybe for us, it's a group of principles or a clearly articulated life vision and purpose. So very helpful to do that work. So if you have done that work in the past, and if you did enter 2021 with some clear life vision and purpose, we could begin with the reflection of, well, how has my year been? We can kind of reflect back on the year and do some writing and some journaling. Like, what were some of the major events of this year? And what have been some of my accomplishments this year? And maybe what have been some things I hoped to do but didn't quite manage to get done or accomplish. We could just do reflecting on that in different ways. And we'll talk about, how to journal that in some more detail as we go forward in this challenge. But to begin with, you might just do some reflecting on how's the year been? These have been very challenging times for all of us with the global pandemic. 2020, when 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 the calendar ticked over at New Year's Eve of the beginning of 2021, we all kind of breathed a sigh of relief. I think, wow, 2020 is done with. That was a tough year. New possibilities. And, it has been new possibilities for many of us, but at the same time, 2021 has continued to be a tough year. And it looks like we're going to go into 2022 with the pandemic still around. So this is incredible global challenge that we're all going through together, which actually presents incredible opportunities in of itself, I feel anyway, in terms of really connecting with our shared humanity globally. I mean, we're all going all over the planet, every culture, all of us of every background, every culture, every religious background, every philosophy, all genders. We're all going through this together, and that's quite amazing, really. I think there's tremendous potential benefit in that. So, just beginning that process of reflection, how's my year been? And to what extent do I feel I kind of stayed on track with my own life purpose and vision or my own ethical principles? And, do I recognize there's some places where I kind of veered off track? And I can just make note of that. And I want to be very clear here that this process of reflecting on our current year needs to be done in an environment of profound self-compassion, profound self-compassion. This is not about beating ourselves up. That is not helpful at all. It's completely counterproductive. So we need to really approach this whole process in a spirit of fundamental friendliness toward ourselves and kindness towards ourselves, self-compassion. It is no small thing being a human being. It is incredibly challenging being a human being, and I think it's probably always been challenging. I'm sure it's always been challenging, and in some ways, before all the conveniences of the modern age, maybe it was more challenging on one level. And at the same time, I think it has in some ways become more challenging than ever because of all the technology of our times and everything we have to do to kind of, just stay current with life and stay legal. I mean, this is going to vary depending on where we live and what culture we're in. But where I live in the U.S., I mean, just to stay legal and have your driver's license and all the other licenses you need and whatever your home situation is and pay your rent or pay your mortgage and make your car payments and have car insurance if you have a vehicle or there's all the other things that we need to do just to kind of stay legal and functional is really daunting. We tend to take it for granted, but it's no small thing. And then, you know, just trying to sort of function in a very complex modern society where there's tremendous economic challenges to function within a very complex modern society, and we can make an effort to kind of really downscale and get off the grid, and that make sense for some of us, or kind of step outside of the mainstream of modern society to try to simplify our lives, and that may be a choice that some of you make as a result of the summit. But nonetheless, it's just not easy. It's not easy to not have to deal with the complexities of modern life. So it is really no small thing being a human being, and we need to have deep and profound compassion for ourselves. That's my feeling anyway. So anyway, I just want to emphasize this that the process of reflection here it's really a process of learning, and it's a process of actually developing greater compassion for ourselves and connecting with our heart essence as human beings and the renewed inspiration we can find there for our lives, and then learning kind of what works, learning what worked well and what didn't work so well, and what might work better going forward, right? So it's really just a learning process, and ideally we want it to be completely free of any kind of self-criticism, right? It's just a process of learning and developing insight into how things work. So, and how things work for us in particular. So again, I think that's where we could begin. I encourage you to get a journal of some kind or create an online journal for yourself and just begin reflecting on what 2021 has been like for you. As we go over these several weeks completing 2021 and going through this challenge together, we're going to be identifying it. We're going to be getting clarity about what happened for us this year, to what extent it was aligned with our vision and purpose and goals in life and ethical principles for life, and to the extent that we've clarified those in the past. And we'll work on clarifying those going into 2022. So it'll be a process of just being willing to kind of honestly look at our lives and ourselves and how the year has been for us. And it's going to be a process of really celebrating our wins. And there are lots of wins. There are always lots of wins. I mean, getting out of bed every morning takes tremendous courage. I mean, that may sound silly, but it actually does. I mean, how many of us a lot of days would just like to pull the covers up and, stay under the covers? I mean, but we get up and we do our best to step into our life and take care of our life's responsibilities and be there for our families and ourselves. So again, this may sound a little silly, but I think this is really important. So we're really going to focus on celebrating our wins and our accomplishments, even at the level of, let's say, maybe I take out the trash every day at home or once a week. So I did that 365 times or 52 times or whatever number of times. Hopefully, we all have the practice of when we get up in the morning, first thing we make our bed. If not, I really encourage that. I've often talked about writing a book just called Make Your Bed because of the power of that sense of accomplishment and orderliness of mind and environment and everything that we get from just getting up and immediately making our bed, doing a nice job with that first thing in the morning, and then seeing that accomplishment. So maybe we have that practice, and so I made my bed 365 times last year or whatever number, right? So really getting down and journaling that level of detail. Oh, what are some of the things that I do on a regular basis that actually are important that I do? Maybe we wash the dishes 365 times or whatever number, or maybe we're the cook in our home and we made dinner for our family such number of times. I mean, these things are really important and really important to acknowledge. So I really invite all of us to take some time to really begin chronicling some of the daily activities we do that we should really appreciate ourselves for doing and celebrating the fact that I just did this for a whole year, or I did it every week for a whole year, or I did it most of the time for a whole year, right? Maybe we went on vacation for a couple of weeks and we shifted away from those kind of household duties, but whatever it is, actually figuring it out, tabulating it, getting it down on our journal, and so we can look at it. So we're going to be accumulating in your journal a list of all the things we can acknowledge and celebrate for ourselves about the past year. There could be some moments of good fortune that we have to celebrate, some acknowledgments that we receive from others or from the world in some way, some goals that we actually accomplished. Maybe we made a commitment to lose a certain amount of weight and we did it, whatever it might be. So we're really going to invite you to make a fairly exhaustive list of all the things, just simple, ordinary, everyday life things as well as big things that you can acknowledge and celebrate as accomplishments, achievements, wins, so forth. Boy, this is really important. And then after that, and really, I invite you to begin there. I invite you to begin with really just getting a global sense of how the year has been for you, to recognize whether you actually began the year or feel like you had a clear life vision and purpose, and whether your life was aligned with that, as well as your ethical principles over the past year. And then really focus on chronicling all of these ordinary accomplishments, and extraordinary accomplishments, the full gamut that we can acknowledge and celebrate and get it down on paper for ourselves. Then, after that, we can begin looking at places where we maybe didn't follow through on some of our commitments, or we didn't achieve some of the things we hoped to achieve, or we feel we dropped a few balls here or there, or maybe we feel there were some times where we kind of acted outside of the context of our ethical principles, and we really want to own that, recognize that, or places where we just feel we got off track with our life purpose and vision. We got distracted and pulled into other things, which is so easy to do. The whole world is trying to grab our attention today and distract us in so many myriad ways, and many of which are not actually in the end that productive for us. So we're going to take time to look at that, and then it's a process of just honestly seeing that. It's not about beating ourselves up at all. It's just about seeing it, just having an honest self-assessment of how our year's been, and then a process in the same way that we celebrated our wins. We're gonna mourn our losses. We're gonna mourn and grieve our losses, and places even if we want to think of some failures. I don't know that we even need to use that word failure, but places where we didn't quite accomplish what we wanted to, or we feel we dropped some balls in some ways, and we can just look at those and try to understand, well, how did that happen? Maybe it happened because I really wasn't staying on track with my life purpose and vision, or I didn't have any mechanism to keep me on track. I wasn't like using a regular practice of journaling. I didn't have coaches or friends or buddies or an accountability process. I really didn't have any structure in place to keep myself on track. And therefore, of course, I got off track, right? So we can understand, and that's going to be very helpful as we go into 2022 and create our plan, which the final day of the summit will be focused on next steps and how to do the process of life design, designing your life and setting up a life plan and so forth. And so this is all preparatory work for that. So at any rate, I know this has kind of been a lot already, and I just encourage you, first step is get yourself a journal, ideally a physical journal, I believe. But if you really prefer, then set up an online journal of some kind. And that's really first step. And then the second step is to check in with yourself and see if you have articulated in the past a clear vision and purpose for your life and a clear set of ethical principles for your life. If you have, great. Take a look at that and see if maybe you want to work on refining it a little bit. And that process of refinement could happen throughout the rest of this year and into the summit as well. The first day of the summit is going to be focused on life, purpose, and vision. We're going to have some amazing speakers there. And so that may influence you to further adjust your life, purpose, and vision. But, at least get that sense of, do I have one? Does it need refining a bit? And then the sense of, did I stay on track with that? Or to what extent did I stay on track with that over the past year? And if I have never articulated a life purpose or vision for myself, to begin doing so, to just start journaling about that. And that could be a process that you'll clarify over the coming weeks as we go through this pre-summit challenge, and then even further in the summit itself. So, and then if you have time this week, also begin chronicling your wins and your achievements. Let's start there. We'll leave the places where maybe we drop some balls. We'll leave that to the following week. This week, let's focus on really identifying, getting down on paper all the things we achieved and accomplished, including the daily activities, our daily responsibilities of washing dishes, doing the laundry, taking out the trash or the garbage, cooking, cleaning, making our bed in the morning, taking care of ourselves, bathing, meditating. If we have a meditation practice, and by the way, that's something we're going to work on and we'll be encouraging through this pre-summit challenge and the summit as well, to develop some kind of mindfulness or self-reflective practice, which is just pretty foundational, really, to staying on track with our life, vision, purpose, goals, aspirations, to have that kind of self-reflective capacity. So we're going to encourage you. We're going to provide lots of guidance in helping you develop a daily mindfulness practice if you don't have one already. And so, maybe if you do have one, well, maybe I sat every day or most days, or I sat 3 times a week, or I practice mindfulness 3 or 4 times a week. So any kind of daily things you can celebrate, as well as bigger achievements and bigger wins and acknowledgments that we've received, or things we just feel really good about. Service activities, ways in which we served our community or got out in the community with community service, or with our children and their school and so forth. I mean, so many parents have been involved in homeschooling, and that should be something you should really acknowledge and celebrate for yourself. Okay, so that's the place to start. And I think this is enough for the first module. And I'm just going to close out here with a few moments of mindfulness, and we'll give a deeper instruction as we go through these modules. But I'd just like to finish here with about 2 minutes of a very simple mindfulness practice instruction. So if you would, find a posture, whatever kind of sitting arrangement you're in, that feels relatively uplifted, erect, and naturally dignified for you, wholesome. And whatever that is. Now, if for any physical reasons you need to do this standing up or lying down or leaning back in a chair for support, please do what works for you. And then you might want to lower your gaze just to kind of gather your attention in a bit. Although you can do this with the gaze raised, or you can close your eyes. All those can work. And just begin bringing your attention to the body, to the actual physical experience of being in the body, alive and breathing. Perhaps feeling the contact points between your body and the chair, the cushion, whatever your situation is, your feet in the ground. Feeling the contact between our skin and our clothing, the weight of our clothing. Feeling the contact between any exposed skin surface areas and any movement of air in the room where we are, or the air temperature. Feeling the passage of air across the nostrils and or parted lips with each in-breath and out-breath. And then as well beginning to explore the internal landscape of the body. Awakening what we call interoception, which is just a fancy word for internal perception, the body's capacity to feel itself from the inside out. Which is how we know when we're hungry or thirsty or need to use the restroom. It's how we experience physical pain and so forth. So just bringing our attention to an awareness of the overall weight and mass of the muscles and bones, the force of gravity holding us down on the earth. The presence of any areas of discomfort in the body, any aches or pains or stiffness, anything like that. And perhaps as we settle in and slow down, we can feel the heartbeat or the pulse. The overall flow of nervous energy in the body, just kind of a dynamic aliveness, energetic aliveness in the body. And of course, the whole sensate flow, the entire sensate flow that we call the breath, with the breath flowing in and out of the body. So we have the belly rising and falling, the diaphragm contracting and relaxing, the rib cage opening and closing, allowing the lungs to fill with air and release the air. And again, the passage of air across the nostrils and or parted lips. So feeling that entire wave-like motion with the breath flowing in and out of the body continuously. So just tuning into that with basic mindfulness of body, mindfulness of breathing. And if you can, focusing on actually feeling the sensations, not just the idea of the body or the idea of the breath. Right? Those are just words or names or concepts. But seeing if we can drop into the actual direct felt experience of the body and the breath. And if we notice our mind wandering off, which is what our minds tend to do, just gently bringing it back to the body. And again, bringing our attention back to the body, kind of just regathering all the dispersed strands of our attention, coming back into the body, and just taking a few minutes to really in the body, feeling the aliveness of the body and appreciating a moment of being alive. You know, this miracle of life that happens one breath after another, one heartbeat after another, and taking a moment to just settle in and really appreciate that and just be with the simple experience of breathing and being. Okay, so if you're new to mindfulness, I encourage you to experiment with that a little bit, and we'll be giving some further instructions as we move through this pre-summit challenge. And we're going to have wonderful teachers on the summit as well who come from that background of being mindfulness teachers or meditation teachers. And if you already have a practice, then of course, strong encouragement to redouble our efforts to have a good, consistent daily practice, because we all know the many, many benefits of having a daily contemplative practice of some kind. Okay, so I'm really looking forward to going on this journey with all of you, and there'll be more and more of our wonderful fellow citizens, and I can't. What's the expression of people of shared values, that are interested in this summit, because people are joining the registering for the summit every day, and so as we go through the summit challenge, our group will get bigger and bigger, and also really encourage you to join the Facebook group if you haven't already. There's a private Facebook group for the Best Year of Your Life Summit, and it already has a lot of people on it. And you can join that group, and we'll post these videos there as well. And you have an opportunity to share your experience there. Last year, when we did this, a lot of people were sharing photos of their journal and inspiring each other to create their journals for the pre-summit challenge, and then to use that journal as you go through the summit itself, right? So I encourage you to join the private Facebook group. You can do that from all the emails that we're sending out. There's notifications about the private Facebook group. And when you registered, you received notification about it. So I encourage you to get a journal, join the private Facebook group, and jump on board with the rest of us and enjoy this pre-summit challenge, which to begin with is going to focus on wrapping up 2021 in the most beautiful way possible and getting us ready to really launch 2022 in the most powerful, enriching, and rewarding way possible for each and every one of us, whatever that looks like for any of us. Okay, so enjoy, and I'm really excited about this journey we're going to be on together. Thank you.